One of the books that I've read in preparation for our chat today, Pam, is Invisible Women by Caroline Criado Perez. It was a fascinating read and completely eye opening for me as a white male in tech. I would love to start by some of the insights I got from that book. A couple of things stuck with me. One of the core ideas in Invisible Women is that what we often call gender neutral is really just male by default. The author in the book shows how almost every modern system, from like city planning to smartphone design, was built around a male body or male behavioral pattern. The scary part for me reading that was that, like hardware bias is kind of visible. You can see like a seatbelt that doesn't fit or a phone that's way too big. But this idea in marketing of AI, like algorithmic bias, hides inside of outputs that look objective. And the danger with AI in marketing is that bias scales quietly, repeating itself thousands of times before anyone notices. So maybe we can start there. Like, I would love to ask you, how do you spot these invisible biases before they snowball? How do you are there checkpoints or habits that help you like figure out these skewed patterns early on? How do we audit these systems? What are your thoughts there, Pam?
Yeah, so first kudos for reading Invisible. I think that's a really great touch point, not only for our conversation today, but in general. You raise a great point. The scary part of bias, it doesn't show up as necessarily a bad outcome. It shows up as a pattern. And these patterns, because they're so ingrained in us, they just mirror what we see and what we've already seen. So we can't always kind of detect them. So the first thing is that awareness, right? You have to assume that there's some bias exists and not wonder if it does. If we think about how AI was trained on every word throughout human history, and there's been a lot of male bias in that, right? So it's just
Yeah.
kind of inherent in what we have. So, I mean, I think about it like this, every data set has a fingerprint and you can't see it at first glance, but if you zoom in, you might see who's overrepresented, who's missing, who's underrepresented, or who's misrepresented. That's a piece of it too. So I ask, not what's in the data, who's being treated as edge cases when, in the case of women, we're half the population. So it is a three-part habit. It's a always on kind of habit where before you build, you've got to audit and see where your data is coming from and deeply understand it. Like you said, it's a little bit of a black box. It's not so visible the way that it is with hardware and physical devices. And then while you build, you've got to stress test it for different groups, make sure you build that into your testing. And then after you launch, you've got to monitor the results, just like you'd monitor performance. So, bias isn't a one time check, it's definitely continuous maintenance.
Yeah. Yeah. Such a good point. Um, I had a couple episodes earlier on, I think like a couple years ago now. Brittany Muller came on the show and she's like an SEO scientist that went all in on AI and ML like 10 years before a lot of marketers woke up to AI. And she talks a lot about like what's in the hot dog, what's in the AI, and talks about all the data sets that are in there and the biases that are in there. And she uses Wikipedia as like one of the main sources for the clean data corpus data set. And Wikipedia is like incredibly biased for like white male in their like mid 30s that don't have any kids and they're like higher income. And so, yeah, like these are things that are so easy to miss when you're just like a user and all you see is the UI in front of you. You just ask a question, you get the output, you copy paste that into your Instagram post for your corporate company, and then there's not really like a balance check on some of that stuff. So it's a good reminder of continuously auditing it. And I like your point about like it's not a one-time thing. Like these things can snowball and you don't just do it once. You have to be constantly aware of it. I feel like that's half the battle, being aware of it, right?
Absolutely. 100%.